everybody, welcome to the show. I see Wrench Sense and Cole's there. Hey guys, how you doing? Get this music shut off. Okay. So, oh, I didn't get my light on. There we go. So last week I was on vacation and I was going to try to do a show, but we got messed up with family things we were doing and stuff, and time wasn't going to allow it. See, Wrench Sense was just watching a vid on a dude tearing down a Vortec 8100. Forgot the stream goes live tonight. And no problem. Hey Chuck, how you doing? Hey Don, how you doing? So yeah, so last week I didn't get to do a show. I was going to try tape, and I didn't think you guys deserved a tape show. And so anyway, back going again, and so we went to Rockport, Massachusetts. Here's some pictures of the different sites. It's obviously being in Massachusetts, coastal town, it dates back to the early 1700s. Pretty wild. A lot of the buildings and stuff down there are still standing from the late early 1800s. But really nice place to go, and we enjoy it a lot. And so that's where I was, and that's what we were doing. And like I said, we had some family functions that we had to attend, so I wasn't able to get away for the show. So episode 149, trying to get some more technical stuff on here for you guys. So I figured tonight we could dive into carburetors. I still haven't quite figured out what I was going to do next week, which will be episode 150, which I think is a pretty big milestone number. And that was also another reason why I kind of thought to not going to skip last week, because I would have put today at 150, and I wouldn't really had enough time to get anything put together. Hey Ryan, well, that's great. So for everybody else on the show, Ryan lives in Utah, near Salt Lake City, and he sent me some pictures the other day. They had some massive fires out there for a lot of the country's in droughts, and actually Ryan had some fire pretty close to his property. So I'm glad you guys survived that. Hopefully the smoke will blow away soon, and but without fire damage is probably the worst thing that could actually happen to anybody. I mean, it just total devastation. I'm sure you guys have all seen pictures from California. I haven't actually had to deal with that, but I've seen pictures from California where people had car collections and stuff. I mean, just terrible what fire does. I mean, there's virtually nothing left typically. Ryan says Central Utah, yeah, biggest fire in the nation. Wow, that's bad. I'm glad you guys were able to get through it. So so we got back in town yesterday, trying to get back in the swing of things here in the shop. I did get some stuff done on let me see here on Scott's Vega. So let me pull these up. I didn't get enough time to get all this taken care of, but let's see, I opened it in the wrong thing again. Try to get this figured out here. Now the computer's trying to jam up. Come on. There we go, finally. So before I went out of town, I was able to get some work done on Scott's car. So there's the Terminator X-Max mounted on the firewall, and used a grommet down 3D printed pass-through with the wiring harnesses going through the firewall. I would have typically mounted the ECU inside the car, but Scott kind of figured that's a big empty spot. The other side of the firewall's got the master cylinder and the clutch master and all that. So he said he wanted something mounted on this side to kind of offset things and make it symmetrical. So we went ahead and rubber mounted the ECU there, and we got the connector there. There's a close-up of the connector. 3D car chains prints out these things. I've showed them previously in the channel, but they're 3D printed, bolt together, wiring pass-throughs. Work out real nice, gives it a nice clean finish, and so the harness is going into the car over there. Got the steering column all back in, so now we're just waiting on the exhaust manifolds, and then I can go ahead and get the engine reinstalled in that thing. Yeah, so right, some balance on the firewall, because one side's got all this stuff, the other side's got nothing. So that was what we were going for on that. I think it came out pretty nice. The other thing we're working on today, so your Holley Terminator Stealths, which are a 4150 or 4500, either the regular standard 4-barrel bolt pattern or flange, or the 4500 Dominator flange. They make a fuel injection system called a Stealth. So they don't make that harness with coil on plug. It's only for distributors. So I have installed quite a few of them on coil on plug. Nice thing about Holley harnesses and ECUs is they can do either. So I go ahead and repin the harness totally, so it does the coil on plug and all that. So you make your LS car look really clean. Wrench says, "What swivels do you like?" I guess you're talking about swivel sockets or extensions, or not quite sure what you're talking about there. Did it again. Oh, for steering. Okay, I got you. I like the Flaming River stuff, or Borgeson. I like the Flaming River because they have stainless steel, which stays pretty clean in the engine bay. The mild steel ones will tend to rust. So it's one either way, but you definitely want to use a good rugged thing. Let me go back to that picture there. I gotta fix this computer. So this is one of the Flaming River ones. This is actually a used steering joint, and you can see it's still in pretty clean shape. Go down to this one here. Okay, I don't know why it's not scrolling over. I guess because it's cut out. So that's a new stainless, and then this is a really nice piece they make here. It's actually got a joint in there to keep it from getting vibrations. So let me see if I can pull that up. So here's your typical stainless joint, and then here they've got a urethane buffer that separates this piece from the actual column shaft adapter with a pin going through it. So it does take out some vibration in the drivetrain and the steering suspension. And of course the stainless double D shafts. But those are the ones I like to use a lot. I'm going to show, when I get this video done, there's some tricks to them. One of the things you can see is, like up here, this upper one is actually going into a bushing I made for the steering column, and they're flushed out. And then here on that one and on there, you can see that the set screws are barely sticking out. So one of the tricks to any of these steering kits that have these set screws in is that you center punch and countersink the shaft so that the set screw goes down into the shaft. And that way you don't have to worry about, even if the set screw starts to work its way loose, the shaft cannot come apart because the set screw's down into the double D section. Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I do like the Flaming River better than the Borgeson also, but they're both good, rugged steering joints. You don't have to worry about, them coming apart. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's these aircraft style with orange boots on them. They're okay for a very lightweight drag car. They're not something you want to use on a street car. They're just going to tear up and you're going to lose your steering, and of course that's never good. But get back to this. These double D shafts, whether you use the steel one or the stainless or anybody else's brand, you always want to countersink a drill hole into the shaft. And I usually go, like the Flaming River set screws are pretty thick. Yes, they are USA made wrench, absolutely. So you got to drill into the shaft probably about a quarter to maybe 5/16 deep, so that the set screw goes completely in. And I like it to where it flushes with the nut, like you can see in this in that picture and that picture there. That just gives you more clearance around the frame or anything else that's coming close, headers and stuff like that. Just gives you a lot more space, and of course, like I said, you don't have to worry about the shaft coming apart. So Johnny says, do you know how to make steering better on a Bell 4-inch drop axle steering? Vibrates at 65. So one, you want to check your on that 4-inch drop axle. You're talking about a straight axle, so you want to check your clearances in your bushings on the kingpins, and both up and down and side to side, and your gearbox, your tie rods. You got to make sure that there's no slop in anything. And then, as Wrench said, check your wheel balance and make sure your wheels are true. You don't have a tire out around. A lot of times when we're doing straight axle cars, we may run some skinny bias plies or maybe some skinny radials. Some of the antique or a tire manufacturer that's making, remaking replication tires, are replicating the old red lines and stuff like that. I think we all know a large tire manufacturer in Tennessee that does a lot of that. You have to really check for tire run out. I have had nothing but issues with tire run out from that location. I'm not going to knock them. I mean, I'm glad that they're making them. It's just a matter of finding Cokers have to check twice. Yes, that's the company. Find a tire company in your area that can still has a truing machine where they can true the tread. That can solve so many issues with vibrations and stuff like that. So it's easy to do. Jack up the car, jack up the wheel, and spin the wheel. And I like to put something close to a block of wood or something, and then you can actually see the tread moving like this. Well, you know what? You're never going to get that vibration out. And that also goes true for wheel spacers and wheel mounting. Sometimes a wheel may be hub centric and you've got it on a mixed matched rotor that there's a big gap in there, and so the wheel is now being centered by lug nuts. That can cause a lot of vibration also. So in that case, what you can do is there's a bunch of companies that make hub-centric spacers where you can measure the ID of your wheel hub and the OD of your spindle, and then they'll make aluminum spacers that will fit in there and then will give the wheel a perfect center to hang off the spindle. So you can fix a lot of vibrations and stuff like that also, but you have to make sure your wheels are running true. And then again, like I said, check all your joints and bushings, make sure all that's good. And then of course that Flaming River steering dampener will help. That's not going to take a shimmy out. That's only going to take slight vibration feel, because when you're using all universal or aftermarket U-joints in your steering, everything is solid, so you're going to feel everything coming through the gearbox. So that dampener will help with that situation. But yeah, so that's the thing you want to do is make sure your wheels are running true, and then look at your tires, make sure that they're running true. If they're not, if the wheel is got a wobble in it because it's not hub centric, get the spacers in there. And then the other thing you can do is have the tire trued, because they're not really going to do much about it. So yeah, the I Did It steering column is good. I haven't used their bushings. Their column is a little bit not made to the same level as like a Flaming River one is. I've had many cars come through the shop that had them. But they're good. But I think the I Did It columns are a little bit more made with a lot more offshore parts. So that when you take them apart, like to put a turn signal switch or something in them, or to tighten the screws. So I don't know if you ever gotten a car that's got a GM tilt and the whole column is wiggling. Well, if you disassemble the column, disassemble the tilt pivot assembly, there's a collar down inside there with 4 Torx screws on a GM one and on the Flaming River, and those can come loose. I take them out, red Loctite them, tighten them back up, and make that pivot on the column tight again. I have not done one of those on a I Did It. I had one that was like that. We just replaced the whole column, but they're still good units. They will work. So I haven't used any of their steering components though, so I can't give you any information on that. But that's one of the things when I do get this Vega video moving along, or at least the rack and pinion and the steering shaft, I want to show all how to get all that properly set up and aligned so that you can get your so your steering will work right. And I'm sure if you guys know that on any of the GM turn signal pieces, anything that has a GM knockoff turn signal piece, to get your turn signal indicator or your turn indicator to disengage after making a turn, you have to make sure you get your steering shafts all in the proper alignment when you're doing your steering components, because that horn pickup typically needs to be about 10:30, 11 o'clock when the wheel is straight. If you can get that there and everything set up in the same spot, then you'll always have your turn signal will disengage after you make a turn. If you just kind of get all this stuff all splined in wrong and stuff, you'll end up with a part where you have to reclock that hub, especially on an aftermarket wheel. You can usually reclock it to any position, but then you'll find that your turn signal canceller does not work, or doesn't work at the right time. So that's another thing I was going to put in that Vega video, is that where that steering piece where that horn contact needs to be when the wheel is straight, so that you can get it to disconnect it correctly. Johnny says solid column, so don't have the tilt. Yes, you don't have to worry about that. That makes everything much easier. Hey Ron, how you doing? Ryan says, it has been hit and miss for me. Sometimes okay, never missed with a Flame River. That's kind of the same thing I've found also. The only product I've ever had a problem with Flaming River, and it's something that they do not make but they sell, is the big thing is now these electric steering column pieces. They have one, I forget the company, ADS I think is the company that makes their unit. It's a really nice piece. I bought one for Joe's 33 because they can actually make a column with the steering unit in it, so it's inside the vehicle. So on a hot rod, rat rod, or early 40s or 30s where you have a small engine bay, it puts the electric unit inside the car. The only problem I had with that on Joe's car was that I couldn't get the steering to calm down enough. It just had too much assist. Now we went around and around with it, making different adjustments and this and that, and we never could get it right. And I think the situation is that his car, it's a fiberglass body, and I think the car is just too light on the front end. So we couldn't get we couldn't soften the power assist enough, so it got kind of darty. I did get it to a point where you could live with it, but Joe didn't feel comfortable, so we went ahead and got rid of that and just went back to the regular mechanical, non-assist steering. And of course, then I also showed him he could air up his tires, and when he wears out this set, he's going to put a little narrower tire on there, which will again aid in the amount of effort it takes to turn the car. It wasn't a problem driving; it's only a problem trying to park the car. So one of those things that you can, But he does have a '65 Corvette with the same unit in it, and the Corvette, it works flawless. So you get a car that's, his I never weighed his 33, but I would say that car is probably a 1,800 pound car, because I looked at the coil springs and they're very light springs on it, whereas his Corvette's probably closer to 3,000 pounds, and no problems on that. So Ryan, as far as the high performance stuff, we had I did that probably about 50 or so episodes ago. I would use one of the, I prefer myself to use one of the electric power steering pumps that works a standard power rack or power gearbox. You've got your Toyota MR2s, some Porsches, Volvos, and then of course as you get into later model stuff, a lot of the newer cars, there's other models out there, but you can just do a Google search on electric hydraulic power steering units, and a bunch of different companies come up. Ones you can get out of a junkyard. I think they work great. There are some aftermarket ones, but I think I've installed many of the OEM ones in kit cars and stuff like that, and they work very well. I first did that in 1990. When did I do my buddy John's Firebird? Had to be 1997 or 98. So my buddy John had a early model 4th gen Firebird. I think it was a 94, 95. And we built a small block for it. And he was a painter, so I had this really custom paint job. And we had some pretty big rubber on the back of it. And he was trying to make it look like a drag car. So he just wanted the engine with a low mount alternator on the engine, and that was it. So and got rid of everything else in the engine bay. We deleted the air conditioning and all that stuff. And then to make it creature comfort, I converted it to manual brakes, so no booster, and that all worked fine. but he still wanted to have power steering. So at the time, my brother was working at Champion Porsche, which is in Pompano Beach, Florida. They have a race shop, and they raced all over factory Porsche and Audi teams. And from the Porsche Motorsports division, we were able to get an electric power steering unit that we stuck in that. And man, that thing was awesome. Drove great, and still had power steering, but yet it still looked like a drag car with nothing under the hood. So they work out really well. BP says, I was just going to ask about the electric power steering unit conversion out of a Prius. Yes, Prius is another one. I know there's a bunch of different models, cars that have those. Maybe mainly hybrids. The full-on electric cars have electric power steering racks, and a lot of the newer cars have all gone to an electric power rack unit, which those need a processor to work. So I don't know if there's a workaround on that, but there are in the late 90s, basically through the 2000s, 2000 up to maybe 2010, a lot of vehicles were playing around. A lot of manufacturers were playing around with electric hydraulic units, and that's, to me, that's the best way to go. If you want to go full electric, and the car is, over 2,800 pounds, I think the ADS, I believe it is ADS unit, but whatever it is from Flaming River, it works well, and it does work very good. And it goes in your steering line. So now you can use a manual gearbox or a manual rack, but still have the power, because what it is actually is an electric motor that actually assists the steering shaft. So they work well. It just didn't work in Joe's application with his fiberglass car, which was very light. And like I said, I did get it to the point where it was kind of working. It just was a little bit too twitchy in his eyes. Wrench says, have heard people using Polaris units. Well, that may be a good check too. Yeah, because if you have no, right, exactly, Ryan, if you have electric pump running your stage 1 or stage 2 GM power steering pump, you can still tune your power steering pump with the restrictors that they sell. Turn 1, Summit, Jegs, Speedway, everybody's has a bunch of Sweet Manufacturing. There's a bunch of different companies that make different restrictors for the high pressure regulator for the GM units, and then you can make them control. That's something we had to do going back into the early 90s because of these mainly 30s cars, these street rods. We'd put a Mustang 2 rack in there with a Type 1 or Type 2 GM power steering unit, and again, they would get super twitchy. So you'd take the stock 3.0 gallon per minute valve out and put like a 1.5 or a 1.8, and man, all of a sudden the steering's perfect. And they make them now. You can get ranges because they for stock car racing also. You can get them all the way down to 1 gallon per minute, all the way up to 3.5, I think. And then like Turn 1 and a couple other companies actually make one that is adjustable. So they use the 3.0, and then they put a adjustable pintle valve on the outside as an adapter between the pump and your high pressure line, and you can tune it to whatever you want. So there's a lot of options out there to control your power steering. So I can probably excuse me. Let's look real quick here. Go to my tech stuff, steering. That's a bad picture. So here's the, I just pulled up some of my old data. So here's the electric units that American Powertrain is selling here, but I think ADS is the company that actually makes the boxes for them. But you can see it's just a shaft in, shaft out, and large battery cables, and then a control unit. Obviously on late model cars, the ECU controls it. And the reason they do that, it's it can be adjusted to speed related. So you can adjust this box for how much assist you want, and then you can also turn on, use a speed sensor input, and now you can also control it so the faster you go, the more input it requires. So you can make it very soft at low speed, and at high speed it gets a little bit stronger. Here's one of the electric power steering. I think this was a Volvo here. So you see you got your reservoir, you got your return, and you got your pressure line, and it'll have battery cables going to it and you control it with relay to key on positions. This is another hydraulic electric power steering. Like I said, you can Google these. There's a lot of companies out there making this stuff. This might be the Prius unit, I think. And there's obviously your stage 1, stage 2, type 2 GM pump. Here's your valves for them. I think these are turn 1, and there's a restrict orifice inside here, and they're in different numbers, different volumes, gallons per minute, flow volumes, and they have them in different sizes. Here's another one. So the fluid comes in here, it goes out there, and inside here there's a restrictor, so you can actually look at them and tell if one's smaller, one's bigger. You can kind of figure out what they are. Here's the turn 1 adjustable. So obviously that part goes into the steering box, and then you hook up your dash 6 high pressure line here, and then you can control the flow with an easy turn. That's a Peterson unit. I think that's all basically I had. Let me see if there was anything else on that screen. No, that was pretty much it for that. We had the other one. Let's see. I guess that was the main parts of that deal that we had back there. But yeah, there's a lot of options for you on that. So that was that. What else do we have here? I guess that was it. So what I wanted to go over tonight was carburetors. We kind of got off track here, but that's fine. I like it. I like when you guys get into the piece and we can have conversations about stuff like that. So I didn't get these things set up in order, but let me just show a couple things here. So we all have carburetors. A lot of us still have carburetors on our cars, and you guys may or may not know how they work. I feel that if you understand how it works, adjusting it makes it a lot easier. So this is a cutaway of basically a Holley, but it can work on any type of. It's the same principle, and so you have your throttle blade down here. You have a booster and a venturi. And the reason they have this venturi is they're creating a barometric differential from outside air going into your carburetor bowl and the air pulling through your carburetor. So that barometric pressure change pulls the fuel through that booster, and that's how you get the fuel into the engine. So obviously the more throttle you open, the more signal you're going to get, the more fuel you're going to get. And in a Holley carburetor, you would have your fuel bowl out here, and then you got a metering plate. And in your metering plate, you have your idle screw. Now on most carburetors, your idle screw will pinch either air or fuel, whichever one, but it will control how much fuel you're getting. And you have an air bleed at the top. So if any of you guys, I'm sure either your kids have done it or we did it when we were kids. You could take your straw, put it in a a soda pop or something when you're at the restaurant, and you'd put your thumb over it and you could pick up the straw, and the straw would stay filled with whatever liquid that you pulled, and as you cracked your thumb off the top, you would see the fluid go away. Well, carburetor works the same way. So you've got an air bleed at the top. An air bleed is the restriction, or your thumb over the jet. And as you open that air bleed, it's going to allow more fuel to flow through that jet. Tighten the air bleed, and it's going to slow the fuel or lean out the fuel combustion. And then inside the metering plate, you have an emulsion tube, and the air bleed works with the emulsion tube. So for idle, it's going to go right down to the idle circuit, but for on the main jet, it's going to go through this emulsion tube, and that's going to be how you get your curve of your fuel curve from idle to wide open throttle, and all the different positions of throttle blade angle. In fuel injection, we would have that big, huge fuel map. And in carburetor, you have an emulsion tube and an air bleed. And on any of your performance metering plates, a lot of them will put jets in that emulsion tube, so you can control how that fuel curve is as the throttle blade opens. So I don't have these done here, so I got to go spot by spot here. So here's a pump jet circuitry. Again, we're working with the Holley because it's easier to see. You have your pump at the bottom. You got your bowl, which is cut away here. You've got typically a little orange rubber diaphragm. That's your check valve. Or in a lot of carburetors, it may have a ball, like your Rochester and your Carter Edelbrock style carburetors. They have a little ball in a socket. And so when the pump pumps, it pulls the fuel through there, and then when you actually activate the pump and it makes pressure, it pushes that red diaphragm or your check ball against the seat, so the fuel can only go to the discharge nozzle instead of replenishing the fuel in the bowl. So if you got a carburetor that you can't get the pump jet to work, first of all, you want to look at your diaphragm or your cup and make sure it's in good shape. And then you want to check, there's going to be a check ball underneath the nozzle, and this is going to be on all carburetors. You have to have a check ball on the inlet and a check ball on the outlet. Just like any kind of hydraulic pump, like your floor jack or your press pump or bottle jack, everything that you pump has to have a check valve each direction, so that it only makes the flow of fluid go in one direction. So if you have a problem with a pump jet, with an accelerator pump, you want to check your two check balls. Make sure you don't have a stuck check ball. Make sure they're not beat up where they've got nicks or wear marks on them, so that they aren't sealing. If that's all working fine, everything should work at that point. So basically kind of how a pump jet works. Of course, you got a lot of tuning involved in this. You got your on a Holley, you got your throw, and then you've got a discharge nozzle which you can change, get different sizes for tuning. Your other carburetors like your Carter and your Rochester, you're going to have linkage adjustments. That's basically all you're going to be able to get. Let me pull up one of them. That down. I didn't get any names on any of these things, so I'm gonna have to go back and check a little bit here. So here's a Rochester deal. So in your instructions here, you have a height measurement for how much plunger sticks out, and you have a screw adjustment down there for the stop, and you'll have a linkage that's going to go from here to here. See if they show a picture right here. They've got a linkage, and you can bend the linkage to get your height of the accelerator pump. And the reason that's your travel. You're trying to adjust how much travel you have. Obviously, the shorter the travel, the less fuel you're going to get on the squirt. The more travel, the more fuel you're going to get on the squirt. So that's the Rochester. And let's see, get Edelbrock. I didn't get a picture of that, but here's a picture of the carburetor. This is actually a thermoquad, which is the Carter version. But you can see that you got two holes here for your accelerator linkage, and the linkage has got some angles in it so you can bend it. And that is all to get this height adjusted to get a great pump shot. So that's how you adjust your accelerator pump on those carburetors, and that's how you want to fix flat spots. And of course, now on the Holley, you can go even one step farther, is where they have different cams for the squirter, and that what those cams do is either hits it hard first and then gradually adds, or it gradually adds from start to finish. And they have different shapes, and those different shapes will give you a different tuning curve. So let's see here. Excuse me. That's not what I wanted. I don't know where oh, there's pictures went. So let's go over some of the features of a carburetor. So here's this is a 4150 Holley, and the reason you can tell is because it has a metering plate on the secondary. And of course, this is has a secondary pump, so this is a double pumper carburetor. So here's some of the components. You got on a 4150 series carburetor, you got or a 4160 that has center hung float bowls. You'll have your float height adjustment. You're going to have a screw here or a sight glass window. You got your inlet. You got your primary idle mixture screw. You got some different vacuum ports, and these are important. You always, if you're running a vacuum advance, you always want to find the vacuum port that has no vacuum at idle. That port is going to have idle when the throttle blade is open, and that's going to activate your vacuum advance or anything else that you wanted to control. Light throttle, but the throttle blade, a light throttle, but above idle. So, and then of course you got large ports in the bottom for your PCV or straight manifold vacuum. This is electric choke. You got bowl vents, and then the secondaries have the same kind of things. You got your here's your accelerator arm. This bolt here is a travel adjustment, and then behind here is your cam that controls that. You got your choke up here and your choke housing that controls your choke. So on the let's go to see if we can find a quadrajet here. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Here's our Carter / Weber / Edelbrock. Edelbrock is Carter was making these carburetors. They made this style body, AFB, and then they also made the thermoquad, which had a plastic fuel bowl on it. It was to try to stop fuel vapors or vapor locking so it would the thermal plastic would try to insulate the fuel bowl from engine heat. Then they Weber bought I believe Weber bought Carter, so then they licensed them under Weber for a while, and then Edelbrock bought the rights to manufacture them themselves, and they have your Performer and Avenger series carburetors. Now your Performer carburetors are going to be emission rated carburetors. So if you get a 1406 or a 1407 Edelbrock carburetor, I believe that's right. I know the 1406 and I believe it's a 1407. Those circuitries are designed for emissions and lean burn. so that you can run it on a emission, a car that has to go through emissions. They have very good drivability issues. They do not make any power because they are tuned lean. You have to go to the Avenger series, which is their performance carburetor, which is tuned more for performance and a lower AFR, like a 13.5, 13.8 AFR, and it has adjustable secondaries, and that's more of a performance carburetor. So again, you got your PCV port, you got manifold port, you got your timed port, which is your for your vacuum advance. Again, this will not have any vacuum at idle. And you got your fuel bowl inlet, which they'll usually have screens in the back of them. Your idle mixture screws and your idle speed screw, and your accelerator linkage and stuff like that. Now on your 1406, 1407, and most of your Carter and Weber variances of this shape carburetor will not have a adjustable secondary. The Avengers do, so that's a plus. So you can tune that a little better. And let me see if I can get a Quadrajet in the picture here. We should get a Quadrajet. I guess I didn't get one that had the breakdown, but I can go over to you because I know it. So here's our Quadrajet carburetor. These came in a couple different shapes and sizes. Later on, GM made a 2-barrel version of this, but these can flow all the way up into the 800 CFM range. So you got your idle screw here. You got your linkage going to a spring-loaded secondary. Obviously, your choke, pull off for the vacuum. Yeah, quadrabog, you're right. But I know how to fix that. So inside this carburetor, you got your float bowl up here. You've got a metering rod assembly in right here, and under this little arm here, there's another metering assembly for your secondaries. So the reason why these always got the quadrabog or the big sound of the throttle body opening is because it was GM, to make fuel efficiency, used a small bore primary. So when you're running on the 2 barrels, the front bore was pretty lean, pretty small CFM, so flowed less air, so flowed less fuel, which made more fuel economy. And then you had these big blades in the back, so that when you went to wide open throttle, these would open up, and you could definitely hear the big air intake difference. I mean, that was the thing for us guys. Flip the air cleaner over, and you could hear the secondaries open. I can tell you how many state trooper and county sheriff cars I worked on during my life at different places, and they all had their air cleaners flipped over and stuff. So, they were a lot of fun back in the day. It's a good carburetor if you spend the time to tune it, just like the Edelbrock. They can be just as good performing as the Edelbrock, as the Holley. The Holley is just easier to work with, and of course, there's a lot more components available for the Holley. Yes, Wrench Sense says plugs leak. Yeah, the bottom of these carburetors, they had 2 cavities in them where they actually would drill the zinc to make all the passages for everything to work, and then it would use a lead plug over top of those to seal them off. The aftermarket came out with this little foam rubber piece that would go down in the base plate to seal that off to help that issue. What I did rebuilding carburetors, we would take a punch and drive the lead back in tight, and then we would use JB weld and JB weld all the plugs solid into the body, and that cured that issue. So at one time, it's one of the reasons I do know a little bit about these. I'm not the smartest person on carburetors, but I do know something about them because I did have a carburetor shop many years ago, and we would rebuild carburetors mainly for shops, but we would do them for walk-in clients also. So so those are the basic carburetors for identification. They all have different things. Let me go back to the Quadrajet for a second here. On the Quadrajet right here on this body angle, let's see if I can explode on that. I don't know if it'll be clear enough, but you can see kind of see that there's numbers stamped there. There's going to be your numbers when you're trying to buy a rebuild kit for that carburetor, or you're trying to buy parts and stuff for them. Again, like I said, a lot of that stuff is getting harder and harder to find out because people just aren't doing them anymore. On the Carter, on a Carter, they would typically have a number stamped in right here on this foot. Definitely the Edelbrocks do, and that tells you what that carburetor is. Again, if you're going to order a recalibration kit for a Carter, for an Edelbrock, you have to know that number because you have to buy the right kit for that application. And then on the Holleys, let's see here. The Holleys. I took some pictures of 2 carburetors here in the shop. I was going to try to get these opened up, but I wasn't able to. So maybe we'll make next week a part 2. But here's a carburetor I need to rebuild for a customer. This is a performance carburetor. It's going on a street car. It's double pumper. I do not feel that is the right carburetor for the application, but that's what he's going to use. So let's go this way. I want to open it this way. Yeah, it's probably gonna take 2 nights to get through this anyway. So here's a Holley carburetor. You would be more known. This one, even though it's a mechanical choke, and it is a center hung. This is a 4160 because it does not have a metering plate in the secondary side. And on any of the Holley carburetors that have the air horn, you're going to have a part number right here. I don't know if you can make that out. I try to make it as clear as possible, but this carburetor is 3310-4. A lot of times it'll have a list stamped over top of that, but this number will tell you all the information you need to know about this carburetor. And this is something I definitely feel strongly about because, again, I get a carburetor in the shop like this to rebuild. People have probably had their hands inside of it, and they've probably monkeyed around with it long enough that now it doesn't work properly, even if it was in good shape. So I want to take that number, and I'm going to show you what to do with that in a minute. So here's that one. So here's the list number on a carburetor, Holley carburetor without choke air horn. You look on the driver's side of the carburetor, and the list number will be on the side of the body. So here's this one, 82750. So that is the number that tells you all the information you need to know about this carburetor. So what you do on the Carter, Edelbrock, and on the Rochester, there's not much information out there. That's why they're not known to be so much as a performance setup. But you can take those serial numbers that I showed you and locate it. But if you're working with a Holley carburetor, this is why Holley carburetors are so, everybody likes using them and why they're so easy to tune. So let me go to here. So you go on the interweb and you type in Holley.com and go to categories, go air fuel delivery, and then carburetors. And there's showing you all the different carburetor pages that they have: street, performance and race, professional, components, marine, all those things, carburetor combos, refurbished units, and then tools. And then you go down a little bit farther, and they've got some good information here. And where is my page I wanted to go to? You can go down to the bottom, and they've got some good information, videos on here. But what I wanted to show you, maybe I have to go. Okay, here we go. So you click on the tab Tech Blocks, and you can look for a rebuild number, a rebuild kit. They have a bunch of resources here, but you want to go to your Holley carburetor numerical listing. And what this does is you take that list number and you can find out all the information you want to know on this carburetor. So let's open this up, and we'll scroll down to 3310. These are our numbers. These are previous of the non-numbers. There's 14 pages of carburetors here. I guess maybe they just added the R's to it. So we'll go back to, got ahead of myself here. All right, so you can see on that carburetor, it said on the 4160 3310-4. So now it's giving us all this information here. So it's telling us that the 3310-4 is a 4160. Let me open this up a little more. So here we go. So 3310-4, 4160 carburetor, 750 CFM. And now it's going to give us all these part numbers. These are going to be all the different numbers for the different components in the kit. So 122 is jets. So it says that the primary is a 72 jet. 125 numbers are power valve. So it's got a 62 power valve. We can scroll across. And then gets into different orifice on the pump jets, 031, plain cam cushion on the primary side, and there's bowl gaskets, metering plate gaskets, and all the different components here. It gives you the bore of the tube, venturi, and all that. So we go back to the top of the page, and I'll go back across, and here's all your columns. So you got your carburetor number, CFM, the renew kit, which is a master rebuild. A renew is just to freshen up that one. Trick kit gives you a lot more components. Here's your needle and seat of the primary side, primary main jet, secondary jet, which again, see, like here you've got a 65 and a 76. If we go down to the 4, you can see that it doesn't have a 122 number. It's got a 134 number. It's because on a 4160, it doesn't have a rear metering plate. It takes a solid plate, or let me rephrase that. It doesn't have a metering block. It has a metering plate, and that plate will have the jet built into it. Then you got your, here's your primary metering body, your secondary, your power valve, your pump nozzle. Again, like I said, your cam, primary gasket, secondary gasket, all the different components that you need to get that, including throttle body and shaft assemblies. If you wanted to get a new plate, a lot of times on a Holley carburetor, if you tighten down one corner tight and then tighten down the other 4, you usually will snap an ear off your metering, your throttle body plate. So here they're giving you the part number so you can order a new one. So real good information there. And what I will typically do is when I'm rebuilding a carburetor like that, is I put it back to the stock parameters. Those parameters were flow tested when that carburetor the metering was set up, and it's usually very close. Now, obviously, if you got a way too big carburetor on a small engine, that barometric pressure we were talking about, that differential will be wrong. Now you're going to have to go in and change your jets. So at that point, you're going to have to go in and modify jets and stuff. But the good thing is, if you go by the original calibration of that carburetor, 90% of the time, it's going to be spot on for you. So I always start there, and then if we need to tune from there, we can always do that later. So that's the main deal on that. I'm trying to think of, I had printed a bunch of pictures, but I didn't get them in order. So here is a breakdown. When you get a rebuild kit, no matter what carburetor manufacturer you get it from, you will usually get a sheet that's going to show you in an exploded view all the components. So if you don't know where they went, you can figure out where they came from. and you can help aid in putting it back together. Also, they will give you all the adjustments and stuff you need. So one of the things I wanted to show, that doesn't show good in that picture. Let me pull up another picture. I wanted to show you that secondary deal. Did I get a good picture of that? I guess I did not. I thought I did. Make sure image. Well, I guess I did not. So so I wanted to show you that. So it's already 8 o'clock. So I guess what we're going to do is we'll get more involved with this next week. I'll go ahead and get these carburetors apart, and we can really get in depth in this, and I'll show you a bunch more stuff. Wrench Sense says, can you add a metering? It actually be a metering block to the 41 secondary kit. And yes, Holley does sell a kit where you can convert your 4160 to a 4150 carburetor. So a 4150 is going to have your metering plate front and rear. Typically, a 4150 will give you 4-corner idling. Even if you don't have an idle stop screw on your carburetor, you got a 4150 or 41. It's vacuum secondary operated, and you want to get it to idle on all 4 corners. You can flip your carburetor over, and on the secondary side there is a set screw here where you can open the secondary blades. Typically, what I would do on a setup like that, if you've got 4-corner metering plates, so you got a metering idle mixture screw on both metering plates, so you got all 4 corners. What I would typically do is close the front and rear throttle blades till they're dead stopped and the stop screw is not touching anymore. Then I would walk the screw out till it makes contact to the lever on both sides, and I would turn them even amounts of turns, usually about a turn and a half. And then you would have that area then to adjust your mixture and your idle speed at that point. Holley has gotten much better in their later model carburetors, where they actually have a air bleed in the middle of the carburetor, so you can adjust your idle mixture, so you can slow it down or speed it up. One of the big problems with all carburetors is when you have a lot of overlap in your camshaft. You don't have much vacuum, and the motor needs to idle at 1100, 1300, get into a race engine, 1500 RPM. A lot of times you'll see, or if you have an engine that's gurgling and not idling smooth at all, look down the throttle body, the throttle blades, and if you see fuel coming out of your boosters, that means it's not on the idle circuit anymore. Now you're actually running off of your booster, your main valve body. So what you have to do then is we actually go in and we drill a small hole, air bleed hole, in all 4 throttle blades, and that way we can close the throttle blades back to the idle area and get it to idle correctly, but you're letting enough air go through to let the engine rev to where you can make it work. Being that this is a really big topic, I think we're going to go ahead and I'll go over some more stuff with you guys next week on this, some of these other tricks and tips, and we'll go ahead and go over rebuilding these carburetors. I'm going to do the race carburetor first because that one needs to be done, and then the other one I'm going to just build to resell or something. Wrench says aftermarket actually makes a metering plate, not a block. Yeah, you can get. I have seen metering plates that have jets in them where you can tune them. Like AED and some of the other manufacturers have done it. Let me see. I can probably pull up some pictures here. Go back to the Holley page. So go back here. I'll show you guys. You go into your carburetor tools section. No, that's just going to be rebuilding parts. We want to go to carburetor parts, carburetor components. So here's your metering plate conversions. So here you can take your this is made to take that 4160 plate off the back of the throttle body, and you can put this bowl on. Comes with new screws because now the bowl is farther away from the body, and this gives you an opportunity to now have a metering plate on the back side of your carburetor. And here's your plates where they have them. So here's your secondary. This is a metering plate that would come in a 4160 style, and they actually have little holes in the bottom here. This is a 081 with a 040 air bleed, because it's got an air bleed on the top side and it's got an 081 on the bottom side, and that gives you your that's your tuning spec. Here's another one with different holes in it, so you can obviously tune it. You need to adjust your secondaries. They make different ones to do that, but to me it'd be easier just to throw a metering plate on the back and create a 4150 style deal and go from there. But they make all kinds of components here for you. Here's all your discharge accelerator pump things. Here's your cams, and you can see how the cams have different shapes. That's going to be the different control out of how the accelerator pump works. Here's your neutral one. This is one that comes standard in most of your street carburetors, and then obviously they have different ones. But all that is going to control the shape of the curvature of the fuel volume coming out of your nozzle. And they have two holes in them because on the side of the carburetor there's two holes, number 1 and number 2, and you can move it from one to the other and get additional tuning out of that. On your these are not for Rochester, but for your Rochesters and your Carters, you would get a performance kit like this. This is actually for a street Demon, which the Demon was kind of a copy of a Carter carburetor. So you've got your primary and secondary needles, and then you got these springs that control how much vacuum it takes to pull the needles down to control that. The vacuum is what, as the vacuum goes away from the engine, it allows the needles to rise up, and you can see there's different steps in the needles. So that's how you get your fuel curve. Again, the Rochesters are kind of getting hard to find that kind of stuff. The Edelbrocks, you can get all that stuff right from Edelbrock. They already have the kit with all the proper instructions and even give you information on what to do and how to adjust it. So, but yeah, you can get all your different components here. Here's a good part that you should always look for. Here's your secondary diaphragm on a vacuum secondary carburetor. You tune that with these springs. And again, it's all by vacuum. So when the secondary opens up, it creates a vacuum signal to the diaphragm, and then the different spring rates control how fast the secondaries open and can eliminate the bog and make it quite snappy if you get the right spring. But they make a quick change adapter. Let's see, right here. So typically your carburetor is going to have a solid plate on it, but they make these quick change covers, so now you don't have to fool with your diaphragm. You can just take the cap off, pull the spring out, change it quick, put it right back together, and your diaphragm gets pinched by this outer ring. You're not going to affect that, so it makes it very easy to change those springs. So if you have a vacuum secondary carburetor, this is almost a must purchase, even if you don't think you need to adjust it, because you can fine tune down the road. It makes it so much easier to work on the carburetor, and just makes everything much easier to deal with. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to get into fuel floats, but we'll get into that because I see we're already past 8 o'clock. So we'll get into this next week. I'll try to get more in depth in this. So it kind of worked out that we're building this up for our 150th show. So we'll do a deeper dive into these carburetors next week and show you a bunch of tricks and stuff. And unfortunately, I won't have this carburetor. I won't have a car here to put this carburetor on, but I can still show you tuning stuff and makes it a lot easier. I see Ryan says Yeah, a wrench says probably best to buy a 4150. You're correct. 4150, especially a center float bowl, because I'll show you next week on the 4160s. Some of them have internal needle and seats, so you have to take the bowl off to adjust your needle and seat. So if you have a 4160 with the little tube that feeds from the front barrel to the back, front bowl to the back bowl, those you have to take everything apart to adjust your float. Kind of a pain in the butt. If you get a center hung float bowl carburetor, now you can adjust it with a screwdriver and a 5/8 wrench, and you can pop your sight glass out, check 5 seconds, adjust that out, and it makes it really simple. Ryan says maybe with Holley ECU. Yeah, Holley ECU definitely makes it much easier to tune. Wrench says I have the spring kit and the quick change adapter. Cool stuff. Yeah, it is a must have. If I'm rebuilding somebody's carburetor, it's going to leave here with that on there, just because it's going to save so much time down the road. And if you've ever taken the secondary diaphragm apart and tried to put it back together, it is a mother. It is, as Steve Morris says, a mother trucker. Because to get that diaphragm in there correct so you have no vacuum leaks, and to get the port, there's a hole for a port, vacuum port in there, and to get that in the right location, and you're fighting the spring, is just super tough to do. I do have a vacuum secondary on this one, so I can show you how to do it. It's a pain in the butt, but anyway, we'll leave that all for next week. So really appreciate you guys coming in tonight. Again, really sorry about last week. I really wanted to get a show on, it just wasn't going to happen, and I didn't want to do something that was not up to our normal standards. If I tried to record something, nobody could comment on anything, so it just wouldn't be the same thing. It wouldn't be a live show. So I just figured it would be just better not to do it at all. So with that being said, I'm going to pull the plug on tonight. We'll dive deeper into this next week, and you guys have a great week. Remember to smash the like button. Helps with algorithms. And subscribe and do all that good stuff. And see everybody next week. See ya.